Hello, sir. So now we'll be starting a session. Welcome, everyone. We from Entrepreneurship Cell IT Kanpur are resuming our entrepreneurship lecture series, Startup 101. Uh, this is our first session for Startup 101. This is being taken by Mr. Pankaj Thakar. He is the founder and chief mentor of Part of Ventures. And this session, the topic of this session is validation before initiation. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, Gagan, and thanks everybody else for listening to me. And I'm happy to be here and provide you some key inputs to if you want to be an entrepreneur. IITians have been in the forefront of entrepreneurship, and IIT Kanpur has done some fantastic breakthrough innovations in the world. I hope it continues. The reason that we've chosen this topic today is that a lot of entrepreneurs, including me, we start with what we do is we do hit and trial. We kind of, find and navigate our way by going through a maze kind of situation where we hit blind spots and we try and find our way. And however, over the last 35 years that I have been working and that entrepreneur, I have realized that entrepreneurship can be really something that can be learned, and if you can connect the dots very quickly by learning, the journey can be way quicker, way faster, way more enjoyable, and way more productive. So a little bit about me. I am a serial entrepreneur. I have last 25 years I've been creating startups, some of them not successful, some of them successful. 6-7 years I've been trying to help startups by mentoring them, educating them, conducting workshops for them, and these kind of interaction with startups. 100 odd institutes in the country. I was in IIT Kanpur some 4 years ago, and my partner Rajat also has been there a couple of times. And all premier institutes I have spoken to, and I believe I'm able to contribute positively to the ecosystem. In my journey, I've done a startup in Silicon Valley, not successful, but spent about 5 years there. Then India, last startup was a company was Cellcast, which I exited, and then I went back to school to learn entrepreneurship. You may find it funny, but it's really, because if you want to teach entrepreneurship, you first need to learn how is it different than what you did. And I found that whatever I did was exactly the same, but I didn't do it in a fashion that it got me completely, it was kind of a, get set going. No, it was not that. I had to find my way through really by going left, right, find it. However, that's why I went back to school. I went to Harvard first. I spent a lot of time in Harvard understanding a lot of things about the digital economy, digital technology, entrepreneurship, data science. Then I went to MIT in same city, other side of the river as they call, and I learned again data analytics, AI, ML, blockchain, everything that I didn't learn in my college because they decided to now pass on all that knowledge to folks like you. So let's understand why have we chosen this particular subject. There are two different surveys that happened in the last 5 years. The first was done by IBM, and IBM very conclusively said that 70% of the startup go down because they don't have undifferentiated business model, and the other some of the major reasons were they don't have skills, the right skills to do what they're supposed to do. Funding is a major issue. Mentoring is like very informal, very informal. The mentoring, if you look at the Western world, the mentoring is very formal. The mentors have skin in the game. So that's one of the major things that we are focusing on. And of course, there are unethical business conduct because there are too many people trying to do the same thing. And when they can't differentiate themselves, they try to get to unethical things. And ultimately, in startup world or in any corporate job that you go, unethical things surface faster than you can think about. You can't hide truth. somewhere it will resurface, and then you are in for a big shock, and the entire career could be in jeopardy. The second reason, the second is by this great startup, research company called CV Insight, and they concluded that 42% of the startup failed because their product has no market need. Many of the times, all of us kind of go there and say, "Hey, I think this is a great idea," and we all try and chase that idea, and it end up, something like you're chasing a ghost because it never exists. That idea never existed. It is just something that you created in your mind and went after it. It's not a great thing to do, right? And then other things that they found out was that many people actually ignored customers. The customers who basically are going to pay for their product or services, they just ignored them. They just build whatever they wanted to build, and it has no relevancy to the customers. And that's another problem for this. And hence, we always believe that a startup has to work with the customers, and I'll tell you why in the following slides. So what are the challenges? Challenges are lack of pioneering innovation, and I'll explain to you what innovation means. A lot of people also have misguided concept of innovation. Innovation of solving a real problem based on new technologies or unique business models. What they do not have are able to find team members. Famously, somebody said, this is not a spectator sport. This is a team sport. You need to play as a team. You may have a very good leader, but unless and until you have a team, it's like going there as a lone ranger. This doesn't work as a lone ranger. You need to have a team. And poor business ethics and funding. A lot of people have this notion that if I have a great pedigree and I am from IIT, IIM, and I can raise money, trust me, no. So I am not IIT. I am neither IIM. I did my mathematics honors from Delhi University, and then worked my way through for next 10 years, 15 years to understand how the business is done. And I managed to raise in my first startup those days there was no $1 million. There were used to be crores, and I raised 2 crores in the first venture I did. The next venture I did was in Silicon Valley, where I raised $15 million. And the third venture that I did was Cellcast, where I had raised about $30 million. So it's not necessary that you need to have a great pedigree, but you need to understand how the business is done and what is the investors looking for. And when we conclude this session, you will understand what we are looking for, and you will have enough time to ask questions. And then the next thing is, many startups are not able to provide leadership, and the leadership does not mean that you push people and throw your weight around. Leadership means when you are facing challenges, you need to actually address those challenges. And if you're going through a bad time, you need to actually hold everybody together and bring them up, and lead the pack with courage, with wisdom, and with the vision. Just not like go there and be a bull in the China shop. That doesn't work. And the facts are, no ideas are perfect. No ideas are ever perfect. In fact, no ideas are the ideas that get funded. It's the execution, it's the understanding of the idea, and I'll tell you what idea could be in the later slides. It's a team game, I said. Resources are very valuable. So whatever you have, you need to hold on to those resources. Bootstrapping, people call bootstrapping. It's not about holding on to money, but every resource that you have, you need to hold on to that, including people, including your stakeholders, including your advisors, everything. All those resources that are at your disposal, you need to actually hold on to them. Doing is more important than planning. There's a lot of emphasis on planning, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Who would have thought in December last year that there will be a COVID-19? And what happened then? All the plan went out of the windows. What do we do? We do more things than actually we plan. Planning, all you need to plan is your next step. That's about it. You need to have a vision, a long-term vision, yes, but you cannot plan on that vision for next 3, 4, 5 years. You need to plan for next 12 months, 24 months, that's it. And just keep planning. Just keep planning for those 24 months. Don't look beyond that. But the most successful startups, they only plan for their next step. They have tasks, and they have their sequential tasks, and they try and take on those loss one by one. Funding requires evidence, and when I say evidence, it does not require a prototype. Most of the engineers, they jump to do prototypes. People don't require to see prototypes. People believe in your ability to build prototype. That's what they need to see. So they need to see proof, and that proof is you. Have you got the ability to build anything that you're talking about? Have you got the resources that are required to build something phenomenal? That's what people are looking for. It needs evidence, evidence that you can deliver. If you can show that evidence, the funding will chase you. You don't have to chase funding. Getting help is must. Don't shy away from hiring mentors. Also, let me explain to you. So I sit on IIT's review board, IIT Delhi's review board, and most of the times what I've seen is IITians have professors who are guiding them, which is great. It is great when they are guiding, professors are guiding them because they are the domain experts. But about on the business side, I have seen, even if you have an MBA course in many IITs, what I've seen is they completely defy the logic. They just don't go the way startups are supposed to go. In spite of most successful are IITians in entrepreneurship because they know how to do it. They have the hunger, the fire. They have, so what I call, entrepreneurship is art and science, a mixture of art and science. Art is the personality of an entrepreneur, his vision, his ability to understand things, his skill set, that is all he has. And the science is what a mentor or a entrepreneur education can bring to the table. And put these together and you have the craft of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is craft. It's a craft that is learned over a period of time, but it is learned by people who are passionate, people who have the intelligence, people who can actually look at things and look at things differently, think out of box, and also get people, take people along with them. So that's the getting help is must. Have a business mentors right up front. You need, see, so I see about maybe 1,000 odd, business plans almost every year, and out of that 1,000, maybe we meet about 200 out of them. And 200 we meet every time an entrepreneur walks in, he's first looking for funding, and then maybe he's looking for some business connects and business leads and some way to grow his business. And the last thing is looking for mentor. But imagine this: if you walk into our room and you say you first looking for mentor. What a mentor does, mentor helps you get business. Mentor helps you get to understand how to do business. And once you do that, if you have the business, the funding is a given thing. It's a logical thing to happen. There are billions of dollars floating in this country to be put in people like you. And I say especially IITians because they have the ability to do things differently. And if there's billions of dollars chasing you, then why do you need to chase? You chase your dream. You chase a viable idea. You chase a validated idea. You create proof. And once you create that evidence, all these billions of dollars will follow you. And entrepreneurship can be learned. Don't be in this whole mindset that I know it all. You know what you know the best. Entrepreneurship is a whole lot of outside of your domain. You don't understand entrepreneurship at all, and that's a fact. And if you accept that fact, you should be ready to learn. And there is a way to learn it. And I've been teaching entrepreneurship for the last 6-7 years. And I have done, last year I did some 6 projects with deep IIT guys, deep tech IIT guys who were actually doing PhDs in IIT, in Mumbai, in Gandhinagar, in Guwahati. And I found, amazing guys. And one thing good about IITs is they're ready to learn. So learn entrepreneurship. Don't shy away from, don't think that you know it all. You don't know it all. And that's the reason these are some of the facts that you must have. And based on these facts, I say validation is must. Validation, when I say validation, is basically, collecting all that evidence that you need to show to get, let's say, move ahead and get funding. Some of you may not be in need of funding, but that's all right. But I'm saying, if you need to move ahead, you need to have an evidence that yes, this could work. Why does it need an evidence? Because the first principle of entrepreneurship is what we call affordable loss. What is affordable loss? Affordable loss is all of you, when you actually graduate from IIT, are worth some 30, 40, 50 lakhs. Some of you are maybe even a crore. Now, when you do entrepreneurship, you need to give at least 3 years, minimum 3 years. There's a Gujarati saying that if you want to do anything, do it for 3 years, because after 3 years you start seeing the fruits of your labor. So if you're spending 3 years, imagine the opportunity loss that you have. In 3 years, an IITian can easily lose anything between 1 to 3 crores just doing that venture. So is that loss affordable to you? Think like that. Don't jump into think blindly. Your initial days, as I said earlier, is for learning. So learn, get out there, go learn something. You learned your art, you learn your craft. To learn your craft, you first need to learn. You have your art, but you need to learn the science of entrepreneurship. And science of entrepreneurship can be learned by two ways. One is, of course, getting a mentor, or other is to go and do a real job. Go do it for 5 years. Right. My first mentee was a company called BIT out of IIT Delhi and IIT Mumbai, two guys, Yogesh Tomar and Biswa. And they worked for 4 or 5 years, including a 2-year stint in New York where I met them. And I was coming back to India. They were also coming back, and they created a startup. Next 2.5 years was a roller coaster ride for all of us, two of them and me with them. We built something from scratch. We did a revenue which was about $1 million a year in our third year. And boom, in third year, somebody came and bought them. They actually sold it for about 12 crores. Amazing journey, but that happened because they had learned something. They were ready to put their 3 years on the line. They had those kind of savings in their bank. They didn't need to look for their daily needs outside. They just focused on the business, and boom, there they are. So think about affordable loss before you start doing anything. And I say this because IITians are a precious, precious commodity of this country. Your parents spend a lot of money and time on you. Country spends a lot of time on you and money on you. IITians get a very subsidized rate of education, and that's the country that's spent on. So you are very precious to the country. Just don't, go there and spend your 3 years doing something which is not viable. Think about affordable loss. Team mindset. Everybody. Fortunately, when you're living in hostels, you actually have this ability to create teams and work in the teams and so on and so forth. So that's a great thing. So have a team mindset. Very, very important. Also, when you are validating an idea, you are brainstorming. When you are brainstorming, you understand who should be in my team and who should not be in my team. And that's very important. Your best friend may not be the best teammate, and your best teammate may not be your best friend, but he will become your best friend over a period of time. So the team mindset you also need to understand. When you create a team, they need to have a buying in into your idea. Whatever you are saying, everybody needs to have a buying in. Then only they can put their time and effort and money into it wholeheartedly for next 3 to 5 years. Who's the pilot? The team. When you build a team, it also helps you define. Sometimes you need. So when I was running a very successful business when I went to US, and when I went to US, I established a company there, and then I realized that this is a new place. I don't understand it that much. I used to go to US very often, but not as a part of conducting. I used to be the guy who used to go there. People used to receive me. I used to represent them in India and so on and so forth. But when I went there, I realized this is not the place where I can actually really dominate, as you may call it. And then so what I did was I hired a CEO. He was a friend's friend, and we started talking. We had the chemistry. I hired a friend to become my CEO. I was already a CEO for the last 5 years in India. So sometimes you need to have very clarity on who's the pilot. Values. So when you are actually validating and brainstorming and working together, you develop common values, and those values actually drive your business. A lot of people try to do things which are not. So when you're building a team and when you're validating an idea, you're brainstorming, and some of the ideas coming from a corner are not really, does not match your value. So you need to keep. Sometimes people don't match your value. A lot of things people do together, which some people are able to enjoy and some people are not. So if there are two groups there, people don't enjoy and people do enjoy, then there is a problem. So validation is must from all these point of view. You need to have affordable loss. You need to have team mindset. You need to understand who is the pilot and what are the values. As I said, no idea is perfect. The reason I say that is, are you solving a real problem? is that problem really there in the world, or is it just some creation of your mind, right? So look, there is a huge this impact of Steve Jobs, where he used to bend reality. Well, he was bending reality because he would go and check on that reality, will it have a market or not. All Apple products, and this is a fact, was been filed by Apple in New York courts, where they say every product that they put in the market, they do research before they put it. The reason that you need to have a real problem solved, because all problems have financial impact, mental impact, and social impact. Now, all these impacts actually create a need in the market. If I am actually suffering from a problem, I'm looking for a solution. And when I'm looking for a solution, what do? I go out and search for it. I go out and find people who can give it to me. And when I find that, I end up paying for it. And that's the reason you need to solve a real problem. People only pay for problems that they relate to. Problems they relate to are the real problems. So if you're solving a real problem, then only you could actually get some customers. And without the customers, there is no business. There is no business that you can do without a customer. Even, you think at any level, every startup, and a lot of startups fail because they don't have the ability to sell. It's not their ability to sell. It's primarily because that nobody wants to buy it. Selling is a very easy job. I've been a sales guy when I started my career, and I know how bad it used to be when we used to go and do a hard sell. But it is not about hard sell anymore. It's about people buying stuff. So if nobody is buying, how can you sell? You cannot sell. And people will only buy if it's solving their real problem. If the problem is, and the problem that is impacting them, so you need to understand, is your problem actually impacting somebody financially, socially, and mentally? All three. And what is the impact? What is the quantum of impact that is had? Is this person losing his mind over this? If he is, he's desperate for a solution. He's desperate for a solution means he's desperate for paying you for something that you can build, right? Intensity of the problem and the frequency. All this is important for you to understand how viable is going to be your solution. So your idea to be perfect, you need to know how much impact does it have? What is the intensity of this problem that I'm solving with my idea? What is the frequency of this problem that I'm solving with my idea? These are very, very critical things, and that's why you need to validate. You need to validate, are you solving a real problem? Are you solving a real problem for people who will end up paying for you? Innovation is core. You need to, a lot of people think I'm innovative. Yes, you are innovative in your thinking, but can you translate your thinking into a real problem solving? If you can't solve a problem innovatively, then you're basically just replicating somebody else has already done. A lot of people have this notion of invention is innovation. No, invention is invention. Invention becomes innovation when somebody is ready to pay for it. When it is a monetizable thing, then it becomes innovation. Otherwise, it is not innovation. It's just invention. It sits, and there are multiple inventions, there are thousands of inventions that sits in our laboratories, and they never see light of the day. The problem is because there is no real need of them. So is your problem innovative? Is your solution innovative? Sorry. Is the innovative solution you need because it has to do better than anybody else? Is it monetizable? Is it creating a new market? Somebody, if you guys have read this book, and I strongly recommend you to read this book called Blue Ocean. Blue Ocean is all about when you innovate, you actually create new markets and new products. New products create new markets, or you create new markets and you bring in new products. Either way, it works. So are you looking at me? You need to ask this question, and to need to ask this question, you need to validate. The only way you can validate is you can actually make it customer centric. If you are looking at a customer, potential customer, you're solving a real problem, and you're solving a real problem with the innovation, and I'll explain to you what do you mean by innovation, right? So when you're solving a problem, you're actually looking at number of stakeholders. There's not only one stakeholder, there are a number of stakeholders. Nothing gets bought by one person. Every person has people influencing their mind. If you're at home, you want to buy something, it's your parents, it's your wife, it's your children, they influence. So the stakeholders, important is You understand who are the stakeholders for whom you are solving the problem. Who's the potential end user? There is a brilliant startup in IIT Delhi which is solving a problem of learning. Now, the STEM education actually takes a back seat when children go into standard 9th and 10th. The reason for that is that a lot of these children are not able to understand the fundamentals which they were supposed to understand in this class 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And those fundamentals, once not understood, there's a learning gap that you develop. Now, to solve this learning gap, you need some technology that you need to build, and this company is building that. But the problem there is the potential customer is actually the parents, but the end user is the child. So you need to understand the stakeholders when you need to look at the potential end user. And end user need to ratify your idea. If he is not ratifying your idea, the parents are not paying. Are they acknowledging the problem? Is there a willingness to pay? If there is no willingness to pay, why would you build some product? You cannot build a product if there is no willingness to pay. If there's a willingness to pay, you will build everything and anything that they want. But how would you know that they are willing to pay? Only if you talk to them, only if you interact with them, only if you reach out to them and have a one-on-one chat with them, and what we call primary market research. Your validation is nothing but actually interaction with your customer before you build everything. So you may have an idea, and that idea may be solving a real problem. But that idea solving a real problem, it could be too early to solve that problem because that problem is just happening. It could be, let's say, in tomorrow, about a year and a half earlier, somebody would have said, hey, there is something that called COVID-19 will appear in, December 2019. Nobody would have given that person any money to build a vaccine, right? Now what happened? 2019, December came, it was discovered. Now everybody is trying to do a vaccine. There are about 70, 80, 90, 100 people who are trying to do, include one of my startups is trying to do a vaccine for COVID-19. Now COVID-19, if it had done earlier, you may have the ability to do that, but the willingness to pay was not there because nobody is suffering from that problem. So you need to identify the problem that people are suffering, its impact, its intensity. If COVID-19 today, any one of you are trying to work on a, let's say, AI-based system which can help somebody detect COVID early or something like that, there is a startup in IIT Hyderabad which is working on it, which is trying to use the AI to find from the sound of cough, it can actually predict COVID-19. Great idea, and we are helping those guys. So what happens then is, when I put them in front of the investors or in front of a customer, both of them are actually willing to pay. One is willing to invest in the company, other is willing to pay for the technology that they're using. So willingness to pay is another part of it. Their ability to pay, you cannot outprice yourself, right? You cannot say, I believe, and this is just my belief, that 20-30% of the patients are dying today of COVID-19 because they cannot afford the ICUs and the ventilators and everything. It costs them bloody 2.5-3 lakh rupees. Who's going to pay for it, right? So if there's an old man, 75-year-old in a family, and he's got COVID, a poor man takes him to the hospital. Hospital said 2.5 lakh rupees and let him die. Yeah? I can't pay that kind of money. If I pay that kind of money, I'll also die with him, right? So the ability to pay is another important part of it. And then the new markets. The customer will help you find new markets. The customer insight will help you in the market. So you need to be customer-centric. Customer-centric will help you find a potential end user who will acknowledge the problem, who will acknowledge they're willing to pay, who will acknowledge their ability to pay, and hence the new markets will appear. Give you a very small example, very quickly. When, I don't know if you heard about this company called Nirma. Nirma is a great big company. They also have a management school now. So Nirma, when Karsan Bhai Patel started Nirma in 70s, right? The reason he started was because he found that people have a problem in affording, in wearing white clothes. And white clothes is something that actually is a very standard clothing in all over India. Any working class person wears white clothes. And surf those days was costing very, very, it was very expensive product. And he was a lab technician. He came home one day and his wife said, you know what, I can't afford surf. It's very expensive. And look at your shirt, it's all yellow. He said, oh, don't worry, I'll give you something tomorrow, and you can use that. And he worked on the weekend. He created what he called a washing powder, Nirma, and he gave it to his wife. And his wife actually washed it, and she was very happy. And you know how much did it cost? 5 rupees. Surf was costing something like about 70 or 80 rupees that day, a kilo, right? Now, looking at that, when his wife was happy, the neighbors actually started looking at it, and then the entire city of Ahmedabad started looking at it. And suddenly Nirma became something which was. So what they did was, he actually figured out people wanted to wear white clothes. They didn't want to use surf because it was expensive. They were ready, they were willing, they had a problem of cleaning of white clothes. So they actually wanted that clothes. He spoke to his neighbors, and neighbors said yes. So he started building for neighbors. And later on, everybody who saw this great product which can actually make keep your shirt white while cleaning, just bought that product. And they created a new market. So when you do innovation, what happens is the incumbents are sometimes looking at a market which actually they want to give more value to the customer, and hence they become more expensive. While they're doing that, they are going up the value chain, and the value chain at the lower end, they leave empty. Somebody with a better product and a good price can actually sweep the market. Another example is Micromax. Samsung was number one. Micromax came up with this low-cost product which had dual SIM when people needed dual SIM, actually because telco had launched something which was called lifetime free incoming for prepaid. So the customers were actually using two SIM, one SIM which was for outgoing. So they would change that SIM very frequently, primarily so that they can get the best deal on prepaid. While they had one permanent number which they bought as a prepaid, that prepaid number was incoming free for lifetime. So they were using two phones in the one handset. They were using two SIMs in one handset, and that took it was the cost was way below 10,000. It just struck the market, and it became Micromax became 26-27%. And those stories are repeated again by new phones. These Chinese phones are doing right now. So sometimes you actually do something. Innovation happens at the lower band of the spectrum rather than the top band. The top band is occupied by the incumbent. You go there and create something which can take the market away. I mean, read Blue Ocean and you will understand what I'm saying. The other reason is that is this market what need to validate is this worth your while, right? One of you going out there getting 50 lakh rupees a year salary, in maybe 10 years you would be past maybe 1.5 crore. If you jump the border, you could be at $300,000 a year and things like that. Is this market big enough for you to actually get into? So you need to look at scale. Is it worth your while to do this business? And what are the components of this business? Are those components really can be put together and that they're as attractive as you thought they should be? And what is the low-hanging or a beachhead market that you can actually look at? You need to find that. When you are doing a business, the validation also needs to do, how do I start? A lot of people are in this, where is my starting point? They're looking for it. That is called low-hanging. So there is in entrepreneurship parlance, there is a term called beachhead market. Beachhead market was used by forces, by the Marines. When they went in the Second World War, when they went into a country, they started looking for a small piece of land next to the sea where they could land and create a base there. So it could be scantily populated place, and it actually happened in Japan. They went and landed on islands which were actually very, very thinly populated. They captured that, created a base there, and then they went and to the other islands. So that base worked for them, acclimatizing them with the situation, with the condition, understanding how things work, and get more troops in there, create a solid foundation, and then go and attack the market totally. And that's exactly what we use in entrepreneurship. We find the beachhead market. We look for a beachhead market. Beachhead market is something that you need to do before, because unless until you find a beachhead market, you don't know how to start. And when somebody asks you, how are you going to start, and you're looking here and there, you lost them. So you need to have ideation as beachhead market. Completeness of solution, right? You need to satisfy, when you're finding a real problem, you also understand what is the real need that exists. And when that need exists, you actually need to satisfy that need. And when you satisfy that need, you actually identify the value proposition of your product. A lot of time people ask, what is value proposition? People misunderstand the value proposition from the perspective of saying that it's the product that delivers, the price of the product that delivers what it delivers. No, it is not. It's not the value proposition. The value proposition is how much pain you have relieved of a person who had that problem. So I had a problem, and you relieved me of that problem, and that relief is the value that you give me. Relief, and how much that value means to me, is the value proposition. For example, let's say if I'm suffering from a headache. Now, if I'm suffering from headache, I had, in olden days, we used to have a balm. We used to put balm. There was no medicine when I was growing up. You put the balm, you tie your head with a very tightly with a bandana, and you sleep for 3 hours, right? Fast forward 10 years, there came Disprin. You put it in a water, 30 seconds it dissolves, drink that water, in 10 minutes, the headache is gone. My situation at the time of headache, and when I was relieved of my headache, Amritanjan or a balm did in 3 hours. My 3 productive hours were lost. So if I'm in my office and my boss is irritated, my colleagues are irritated because that balm also has a smell some people can't stand. So I had to go in isolation room and sit there for 3 hours before it can subside. Now I did that in less than 10 minutes. The value proposition is I saved my 3 hours. My 3 hours may be costing whatever, 500, 10, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 rupees. But my value proposition is that I saved 3 hours of pain, and that's the value you give. So you need to identify the value proposition, right? And your value proposition needs to be significantly higher than the existing one. People talk about competition, right? And a lot of you will say, we have no competition. There is no situation that there is no competition. There has to be something that currently is solving that problem. Maybe at a very lower level, maybe at a very insignificant level, right? Example, Henry Ford, when he built the car, what was the competition? For him, the competition was the horse carriage. Cars are used to transport people from one place to other people. What was happening before the cars came in? The horse carriages were doing that. So his competition. But when he built the car, it was significantly better, and people started shifting from horse. It was faster, better, looked cool. Everything was way better. So you need to build a value proposition which is significantly better than and the competition, look at it from the existing alternative point of view. Don't look at it from direct competition. No, there is never a direct competition. If you are doing some innovation, it's always an indirect competition that you are not aware of. What are you not aware of? You're not aware of how people are solving their problem currently. And that's why you need to validate. You need to go out there and connect with the customers, potential customer, and ask them, okay, you have this problem. Why haven't you been living with this problem? Hey, I'm not living. I try to solve it, but it's not getting solved. Why it is not getting solved? Because this thing I'm using, it is not giving me 100% relief. Oh, okay. So that's where your idea comes into play. You have an opportunity now to solve that problem with innovation. And when you do that, it needs to solve it significantly better than the existing ones. It has to be complete. You cannot have half-cooked problem there, right? You cannot say, hey, I can do that, but I cannot do it completely. Oh, well, I can give you relief, but I cannot give you complete relief. No, that doesn't work. You need to have a complete solution, and that's why you need to understand what is the complete solution. And again, the validation comes into play. Everything I'm telling you actually has an angle of validation. It's a journey that matters. Everybody says that, right? It's not the destination, it's journey that matters. When you're trying to understand, when you're trying to build a business, when you're trying to build an idea, when you're trying to convert an idea into a business, you need to understand, how does the customer buy? What is their buying journey? And we call it journey because it's an experience. For any customer who actually converts and buys something, it goes through a process. That process has to be really, really, I would say, conducive for people to actually buy your product and be happy. If you're not selling happy, making him happy, then you're not. That's why we call it a journey. How do people buy? How to make decision? What is the process of decision? What is their budget? So this is the buying journey. You need to understand that, because when you create a product and you want to pass on that ownership to somebody else, at that point of time, you need to understand what is that transition? How is that transition going to take place? Right? When you go and sell things on internet, what happens? People understand, people suddenly realize, I want this. What do? They go to Google. They do a first, they do the search. Once they do the search, then they do research, right? Which is a better product? That's what they do, right? Then they find out the price, right? So these are the steps. This is what we call the buying journey. There are various steps, and it doesn't stop when you deliver the product. It actually has many more things, because that is the part of learning is, how do I deliver my product and how the customer actually communicates to me that he's happy. So there has to be a feedback loop. And that feedback loop helps, because when that feedback loop is published, other people get influenced by that and they also buy. So there is a virality that comes in. So you need to understand the buying journey before you go there and build something that you want to sell. Business model can be a game changer. Normally, when you have an innovation in a product, business model could be straightforward, buy and sell. But if the innovation is not to the top of the line, then you can actually change it with your business model. And the product is not on the top of line of innovation, you can change it. Business model primarily means so you created some value for your customer, you need to capture that value back for yourself. And that's what we call it as the value capture is called the business model. You need a business model. The business model basically is frictionless transaction between two people. Seamless transition, right? You are in pain. I proposed a solution for your pain. You said, I am happy to pay you for this. I am happy to pay this much for it. You took that from that person. You delivered the product. Person used that product. He's happy. This is the business model. This is the total business model. Business model is not pricing, for God's sake. A lot of people think that business model is pricing. No, business model is not pricing. Okay. And business model actually is expectation versus actual. What is the expectation of a customer, potential customer? And if you don't interact, if you don't validate your business model with a customer, you will never know what it is. And then you will struggle, because you'll have to go back. Once you go with a product and a business model and the customer says, hey, I don't think I'm ready to pay you this way. And then you say, why not? But this is what I thought. Hey, you didn't ask me. You should have asked me. And then you say, okay, now I'm asking you. Okay, I want you to pay in this fashion. Oh my God, I have to now think again. Now you go back and you're not ready for that. So you need to change your business model. Well, that you could change it, but it's very difficult to change, on the fly. You can't. And that's the reason. And hence the funding will happen. Funding is actually nothing but the connecting all the dots that I told you. If you are able to come to me and connect all these dots, sir, I'm solving a real problem, right? I'm solving a real problem for those many people. There are millions of people who are suffering from this problem. Sir, I'm solving the problem with this innovative solution. This solution, which I know that, I've talked to so many people, I've talked to hundreds of people, and they have told me they are ready to buy this kind of a solution. And sir, this is the price that I've kept. This is my business model, and my value proposition currently is 300% better than the existing ones. You tell me that story, my money is right up front there for you to grab it. And that's why I connecting the dots. And for this connecting the dots, you need to get mentor. If you want to connect the dots quickly, look, a lot of people are born artists. Okay. Then why do they go to JJ School of Arts? Why do they go to Delhi School of Arts? Right? Why do they learn? Because they can become better artists faster. You will become an entrepreneur ultimately. But if you want to become better and faster, then you need to get mentor. Mentoring is the first thing, and business mentor, not the domain mentor. Domain mentor will be there. They can often, but they do not have the nuances that you need for creating a business. That's very important. Build a compelling story. It's all about story, because somebody is suffering. What is a movie? Movie is all about somebody's suffering. Somebody had some problem. It gets solved during those 1.5, 2 hours, 3 hours time, right? Somebody had a problem. Now that's exactly what you're doing, but you're doing in real life. It's not a movie, but your script, your story should talk like you're actually doing a movie. And that's called proof of concept. Proof of concept is nothing but connecting the dots and presenting it to somebody, saying that and they would believe that you can actually give it a physical shape because you have the skill sets. You have the skill sets to do this. And now you have graduated from those pure raw skills to actually business skills. Your technology skills have now been honed to become business skills, and that's what you need. That's what is needed. Thank you. You may ask any question you want. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn and inbox me whatever you have on LinkedIn, and we can have a one-on-one. Is there a Gagan? Is there a Q&A here, or we just go home?
So there is a Q&A. Anybody who is interested to ask questions or any doubts can ask Pankaj sir. No.
There is a very good question by Nandini K. Roma. Nandini, you asked, how do we understand social entrepreneurship where maybe the end user may not be able to pay for it? Look, social entrepreneurship is not about charity. Social entrepreneurship is all about making a sustainable way of doing things. So people, if they're not, see, in non-social entrepreneurship, it's all about profit. And for social entrepreneurship, it is all about sustainability. People not able to pay, you need to find a way for people to actually afford it. It is not about paying it. You need to find. And that affordability, when I say it could happen by subsidizing it, by getting it aligned with some people who would want to help. So social entrepreneurship is not about charity. Let us be very clear about it. It's about doing things in a sustainable way. And when you create a business model, that business model should make it affordable for people for whom you are doing this. It cannot be better articulated in the way I said. So when you create a product, you create a product, there are people in social entrepreneurship funding who will be ready to fund it, right? I have a startup down south which is doing a very fantastic thing of portable drinking water, and she wants to sell it to poor for about 100 rupees or 200 rupees. The cost of the product is 500 rupees, and now we are stitching it up with various people to actually fund it, and they will fund the product, whatever is but it is not to be given free. They will pay only 200 rupees, and then we did the primary market research, and we went and spoke to about hundreds of poor people who want to have a clean water, and they said yes, they're ready to give 200 rupees, 300 rupees, no problem at all. The cost is 500 rupees. She needs to generate 500 rupees to stay in the business, to keep creating that product. So we are getting her funding also. We're also helping her subsidize the sales of the product. And there are ways to do that. There's a business model innovation that we do there. I hope I have answered your question. If you have any supplementary, you can write that. If anyone wants, the next question is anyone wants to ask question, yes, okay?
Sure, sir.
How would you relate WhatsApp like startups to point of your price? Okay, so WhatsApp, initial business model, I don't know if you know this, this was created out of a very small need of certain Russians who used to live in San Jose. They wanted something where they wanted to exchange, and everybody could not afford BlackBerry those days. BlackBerry was the only one which was able to do this whole chat, otherwise there was SMS. So they created that for them, and it was free. And they did not expect it to actually go the way they went. But when they actually started, when they did this with the Russian community, suddenly there was a spur. And then there was a huge spike once they added pictures to it. Now, when they looked at it, they went out to the VCs and said, venture capitalists, and said, look, this seems to be working very well. We can open it up for others, but we don't have the money. So VCs asked them, so how do you get funded? How do you make money? They said, we'll charge 1 rupee. Initial model of WhatsApp was, we'll charge $1 per year to every user, right? And that was the costing of their that was the costing of the hosting on the cloud. That was the only cost they had. And they said, if we generate this money, we will be able to do this. And they had a business plan where the willingness to pay of the customer. And I actually was one of the initial user on Apple, actually on iPhone. I actually paid $1 to them. So there were hundreds and thousands of people who paid $1, and they created this thing. So there is a willingness to pay in WhatsApp also. In fact, today also if they charge me $9.99, I'll pay. Doesn't matter. If I have an idea and somebody would steal, look, that's what innovation is all about. Innovation is something that people just can't replicate. People can't replicate on their will. If they can replicate, that means it's already available. If it is already available, it's not innovation. So it is not about people stealing it. It's about you building innovation. Innovation is something that has never been done before, or it is done significantly better than what has been done before. So if it is significantly better and you know how to do it and everybody else know how to do it, then I'm sorry, then you don't have any defense. In that case, you need to come up with a business model. A business model that will actually, deter other people to do it. And you need to be fast. That's it. There's no other way to, if there's something that is replicable, I don't think there is anything that you can do about it. So if it is not replicable, people are not interested in stealing anybody's idea. Trust me. I have been in this business for more than 25 years. People who try and steal, people get influenced, people try and copy the idea. Nobody steals anybody's idea. Please, if you can, brief me on the difference between the new markets and the beachhead market. How are they different? So new market is the total market. I mean, let's say if you are creating something which is innovative and there are 10 million people who are suffering from the same problem, you're solving for them. Beachhead market is, how do I start? Who is the person who's actually suffering, who's losing his sleep in the night? And so there's a definition of beachhead market. Beachhead market is people who have a similar problem. That's the first definition. Second, people who are in a confined geography, so that you don't have to fly from one place to other. So you actually, so let's say if you're doing something today in Kanpur, in IIT Kanpur, you should try and solve a problem within Kanpur itself first, because it's closer to you. You can reach out to a customer and talk about it. If it's a virtual problem, you're solving a problem on internet, still you need to have a problem, if it is not solvable in Kanpur, then trust me, it's got nothing, it cannot be solved in Mumbai also. So try and solve a problem near, in a confined geography where people have similar problems. They may not have the same exactly 99, they may be 1%, 2%, 3% difference in how they perceive the problem. But the grassroots of the problem would be same for all. So you need to solve the problem. We need to find people who have the similar problems. The third thing, they should somehow be interconnected, either through the community or they are part of Kanpur, so they're in the same, city. Somehow they are connected, so that once you solve a problem of one person, there are 3 more people know about it, and that makes your beachhead market, right? So people who live in the same geography, people who have a similar problem, people who have people who are connected and they have a similar ability to pay. That is the definition of beachhead market. Whereas a new market is something that could be beyond. So there could be people who are. So when you actually do when you actually doing primary market research in this thing, you do segmentation and then you go for one segment, and within that segment you catch hold of a beachhead market. So beachhead market is something that is a small subset of the entire market. The new market is the whole complete market that you actually visualize when you're trying to solve a problem.
Sir, Naveen Raj has asked a question: how to get business mentors?
Oh, simple. Ping them on LinkedIn, share your idea. If it is compelling, people will find it. I just told you, just inbox me. Don't worry. Just come over. Just inbox me on in my LinkedIn or otherwise, and we'll be able to help you. We have 40 odd mentors in our panel, and somebody would help you.
Sir, Abhinav asked, what is the best way to know the problems and needs of the institutions like Indian Army and Defense sector? These appear more or less inaccessible to students like us.
It's not really true. Army is now out to actually the problem statements and want to solve the problem. There was recently Defense Tech. There was a huge call by Startup India for Defense Tech, and there were hundreds of problem statements they put up there. So it's not true. So you need to just go and talk to Invest India, or if anybody for that matter in defense, you go and talk to them and ask them what problem can we solve for you. There are hundreds of problems they are setting up with them, and they're asking you people, startups, to solve the problem, especially IITians. No issues at all. Yeah, next question, please.
Sir, Saksham is asking, is a pivot around an already existing idea a good thing to base your venture?
Of course, yes. So you know the story of Google and Yahoo, right? So Google was nothing but just a search engine. Yahoo came and invested, in Google and gave 26 and picked up 26% stake for some few $1 million, and they, they understood that what Yahoo is doing is Yahoo was using Incotomy search engine, and which was not really. So they had pivoted and done something different on their search engine, and they went back to Yahoo, and Yahoo did that. So it's perfectly fine to pivot and on somebody else's idea, not at all. Because when you're pivoting, you are addressing the problem in a very different way. It's not, the idea is not the issue. Solving a problem is the issue. So one could solve a problem in one way, and you could solve a problem the other way. Both of you are right. Who will win? The time will tell. Who's closer to the customer? That guy's going to win. Who's got a business model that actually customer appreciates? That's guy going to win. Whose innovation is better? That guy's going to win. So those are the things that you need to keep in mind. Value proposition. Whose value proposition is better than, who will win? Absolutely. Yeah. Next.
Sir, Deepak has asked, how about research extensive startups like in space industries, which cannot generate immediate returns? How to take that to investors?
So we are talking to a startup right now based out of Bangalore, which is talking about clearing the all the wastage in the space, and we're still figuring it out if they are solving a real problem. But they are, and it seems there are people who are ready. Funding is something that we still don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. So if you have some idea, if you think there is a problem that you can solve in the space, there are people who are ready to fund it. And I mean, you have one guy who's just done it, Elon Musk. So there are people who will be funding space-based research also. There's no issue at all.
Sir, Dinesh Ram has asked, what is the first step for a startup?
First step of the, not first, I'll tell you 3 steps of the problem. First step is try and solve a real problem. This problem should be solved by your own skills, not, a lot of people try and outsource their skill and say, oh, I have idea, I'll get it developed from there and this guy will sell it. No, you need to think in terms of, can you solve that problem yourself? And once you know that, get a team together who believes that this is a real problem and you can solve a real problem. And last but not the least, get a mentor who can tell you whether this is worth solving or not.
Sir, next question is by Abhinav. What is the appropriate way to invest money, less money so that you have less risk, or significant amount which can create good impression on customers?
Customers, investors, these are 2 different things. Customers don't care what you invest. So it's good idea to invest as less money. What is the way to do that? Bootstrap. I mean, most of the technology-driven businesses today can be run with a very minimum investments. Even if it is a hardware business, there are lots and lots of funding available from government institutions. I mean, government itself is giving today grants worth of more than, I think, 500 to 600 crores every year to technology startups. So if you have something that you want to solve and you don't want to raise money initially, but you want some grants, you can talk to your incubation center, you can talk to me. There are lots of people who can advise you on that. So I am assuming this is what you were looking for. As far as the customer is concerned, what amount of investment you have, they don't care. For them, whether you invested $1 billion or $500 million or 1 million or maybe 1 rupee, for them it does not matter. Go ahead, please.
So, sir, last question by Ajav. So, what are the differences in the customer journey when it comes to social enterprise? Because what beneficiary care about is if their problems is getting solved or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. The social enterprise, so what journey is same. Journey is, so anybody who has a problem, he has a process to actually find a solution. He is looking for a solution, and So for example, if you go on internet, there are 5-6 steps that people take. First is there is a trigger that happens. Hey, I'm suffering from this problem. I must go and look for it. So people go and start researching. So that action becomes, that trigger becomes, that creates intent to buy, intent to search. When the intent comes, they start searching. When they start searching, they get information. They start researching. Once they research, then they actually kind of come to a conclusion that this is the best thing that can solve my problem. So they solve that. They actually buy that product or try and get access to that product. Once they get access to that product, they use it. Once they use it, they actually give you feedback. So this is a broad customer journey which is applicable for almost every sector that you go, right? Whether it is online, offline, does not matter. Social entrepreneurship is no different. The only difference in social entrepreneurship is, which is the first question that I answered, is that people, how can you make it affordable? And that's the business model innovation, not the product innovation or not any other innovation.
Sir, can we have last two questions? So two questions are. So sir, Sameep is asking how to create a business model and raise funding for something that is a building block for a bigger industry that isn't already, but is sustainable. No.
It's the same way. I mean, doing a startup, there are fundamentals of doing a startup. That is, if it's a large industry and it is not acknowledging that problem, you have a better chance to do that. If it's a large industry trying to, so we work with a lot of corporates and we are encouraging corporates to actually, in a way, outsource their innovation. In a way, outsource means look at the startups outside of their system and look at those startups and help those startups with money, access to the market, and third, mentorship from the vertical point of view. So let's say if I am in a particular pharmaceutical industry, they should give you a lot of insight about the pharmaceutical business. So the corporates would come and help you out. Now, if it's the industry is large, it's infinitely large, then to reach out to that industry is quite difficult. So you start your journey, look at the, solve that problem in a very innovative way, interact with VCs, tell them this is the problem and this big industry is actually can use this. For example, Industry 4.0 today. Industry 4.0 is a problem that is being solved for extremely large industries to even small industries, right? And you can do Industry 4.0 at, there are different mechanism you can do it, but it does not mean that the large industries don't need it. They need it more because they're as big. So when you go bigger, the efficiency levels that sets in could be as high as 40%. So the larger industry actually need more support than the smaller ones. Smaller ones are still able to do things more efficiently than the larger ones. But sometimes they are not able to, because of their size and the shape, they are not able to reach out to you. So it doesn't matter. There are other people who will help support you. And at a certain level, they will take notice of you and there could be some kind of arrangement that you can work together, or even a possibility of you being part of their bigger system.
Sir, last question for the session. Ajay is asking, some products do the same thing, but one is very successful and the other one is not so successful. Like if we compare WhatsApp and WeChat, what could be the reason for that?
So, again, I would say WeChat is just a replica of the product. There is no innovation, right? So there is something called network effects. I don't know if you guys have, computer science students should have this subject in their 4th year or something, which is called network effects. Network effects is primarily when you create platforms like WhatsApp. There are two sides of platform, and both sides platform complement each other. So more one side, the other one actually has more value for it. So this also grows, and this side also grows. Google is a platform. There are more enterprises which are actually putting their content here. There are more people who want to buy the content, and because more people are there, more enterprise comes. So this keeps happening. This is called network effects in the technical language. In network effects, there is a phenomena where we say if network effects is good, then winner takes it all. And the winner takes it all. He becomes so big that now if WeChat can develop an interface where you can even talk to a WhatsApp guy Great, but that will not happen because WhatsApp will not open its APIs or interfaces to WeChat. So WeChat has to do the same thing that WhatsApp is doing all over again. Why would somebody want to have WeChat? The reason the Chinese jokers are actually able to do it better primarily because they're not allowed WhatsApp and all these companies to actually get into China. So what they do is they actually wall garden themselves, build their own product, and then they try and come out of that. And they build some stupid, small innovation within that product so that you can, some people get fascinated and use that. I have not seen a single person who has actually deleted WhatsApp and only gone on WeChat. You could have WhatsApp and you could have WeChat also. So the reason, again, it's the network effects that WhatsApp created earlier was way better, and that's why the phenomena of winner takes it all happened, and they actually took the market by storm. Is that good?
Yes. So, sir, now we'll end our session. It was a great session. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It was a great session.
Thank
Very
you,
important.
guys. Thank you for listening, and hope we can connect on LinkedIn or wherever. And if you have any issues, then we really want to solve the problems for you as you want to solve the problem for the world. Thank you very much.